On this one, we're going to take a really close look at the Nvidia GeForce Titan Z. As you can see, I'm doing a little bit of, let's just call it GPU porn in the background. I thought you guys would appreciate some nice close looks at the GPU. You can already see a few cool things with this card just looking at these videos. It's got that really cool center fan. And this actually is one of the first, I can't remember if this or the 690 came first, but these were the first of this Nvidia Founders Edition. And this was kind of the look that you would see on the Nvidia. Well, they didn't even call them, I don't think they even called them Founders then. They were just reference cards then. But you would see this look through the 980. So, and even, you can actually even see the general design styling here in the 1080. The 1080 is just a little bit more advanced of a version of it. But very awesome looking card, triple slot card. This card is actually a pair of Nvidia GeForce Titan Blacks in one card. Slightly underclocked to keep them cool, but it's basically the same thing. So before we get started on the game testing, I want to take a look at our test bed. So I've had the Titan Z in my possession for, I think, a little over a month, maybe a month and a half now, but I only finally got this set up the way I wanted. So this is a fairly high-end, mostly period-specific build. We have a, you can't see it obviously under here, we've got an i7 4790K, which was one of the fastest processors at the time. This coexisted with X79, Z97, and X99 not long after this. So it's kind of hard to say which one's the fastest. I would say for gaming, the 4790K, at least at stock, because I typically test at stock. I'm not a big overclocker. At stock, I believe the 4790K should be a faster chip than, say, the X99 5960X, at least on games of the period that didn't have the ability to utilize more than, say, 4 cores or even less than that, because this ran at 4 gigahertz and most of the X99 chips and X79 chips ran in the low 3s. So everyone will have a different opinion on that, but that's my take on it. High-end board, it's got Gigabyte Z97. What the heck is this? Z97X UD5H. The boot drive is a 256 NVMe SSD. This was available at the time. It also has a 1 terabyte 2.5 SATA, which I believe was expensive, but I think should have been available at the time as well. At the very least, you could have done 2 500s, but they were available in SATA, so that's reasonably period accurate. The case is obviously not period accurate. I needed small cases to be able to have a bunch of these things on hand. Trying to think what else. This specific CPU cooler is kind of a stand-in for the Noctua NHD14 or 15, but you could get a cooler like this at the time. Then, as far as the card, just a few more details on the card. As I said when we were looking at the video on the GPU itself, this is 2 Titan Blacks. These are both 6 gig cards. It is not a 12 gig card. It is 2 6 gig cards. You only have access to 6 gigs on each card. You don't have combined access to 12, to the best of my knowledge. 32 gigs of system RAM, which is more than enough for any game we're going to run on this. Probably excessive, to be honest. Trying to think what else. Yeah, there's not really anything else to go over on here. So let's jump into the games. Oh, we're gonna do for gaming, for game testing. I want to do this in kind of 2 phases. So for game testing, I want to do what did we use it for yesterday, and what would we use this for today. So games that this was, that this was the hardware for back in the day. And then what can it still run today that's of modern relevance is what we're going to do here. So probably 3 or 4 titles. We don't need to test every damn game in the world. Just a few should give us a pretty good idea of what we're looking at here. And so let's jump into it and see how it runs and have some fun. Okay, so this is the one I'm going to use as kind of the example of basically the finest this card has to offer. So looking at your frame rate, you're more than reasonable. Games back when this was new didn't really need to run 60. You run 60 if you want, but it's where I want it to be to look good and playable. So we take a look at the settings. I have totally maxed out the settings on this in everything except the anti-aliasing. Everything else is turned all the way up. Well, does that go? Okay, we got 6 gig. Okay. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, everything's all the way turned up. So this, I genuinely believe, looks as good as many modern new titles. There are new titles that do not look this good. That is a fact. This is widely regarded as a well-optimized, fun campaign. It's sometimes considered one of the best campaigns ever done. We'll see in a minute when the action gets just a little bit more and there's more stuff going on up close. But I believe we should be running. Oh, and I don't think I actually explicitly stated, but we are running 1440p here too. So keep in mind, this card was never intended to deliver a 1440p experience. Oh, come on. These guys are going to kill me. This card was intended to deliver a 1080p experience. So back when this was new, I mean, you could get a 1440 monitor. I guess 2016 was kind of when 1440p gaming monitors really kind of first became available. I think the Dell 2716 was kind of hot back then. So you could get them, but most people weren't running them. Most people were running 1080p. Hell, I think back then most people were still running 1080p 60 hertz, to be honest. Come on. Yeah, you see a little bit of frame droppage there, but it's not bad. There's certainly a ton of room for upping the settings if you need more. You don't have to make it look this good. And you don't have to run it at 1440 either. Man, they're really taking me out. But this should give you guys kind of a good idea of what to expect as kind of the best that it has to offer. So this is Far Cry 5. So this is the newest one that I have seen that appears to properly support SLI, at least for big name titles. So you can look and you can see both GPUs are being fairly solidly utilized. It's a little off kilter, but it's close. You're getting within 10% or under of each other on utilization, so it's not bad. So taking a look at our settings, it's running at 1440p and high. So we are pushing, really pushing this to the very limit. I'm at the very limit of what I would call good, solid, smooth frame rate. But it's definitely playable. If you were going to actually play this on a day-to-day basis with this setup, I'd probably do a little bit more optimization. But for demo purposes, this really gives you a good idea that this runs pretty good. And keep in mind, this is a 2018 title, so this is a solid couple of years newer, 4 years newer, close to half a decade newer than the video card, which, you know, I think that's pretty impressive. Here, let's take a look at what happens if we drop down to the medium, or I guess on this it's normal. So it doesn't immediately affect our frame rate, but it's going to keep it a little bit higher, more stable. So it's definitely, yeah, so you're seeing a little bit higher highs, and it's going to keep us a solid bit more more stable. And to be honest, I mean, it doesn't appear to have much difference in physical appearance as far as the actual quality. So I'd probably play it at medium. Realistically, you'd probably be running this on 1080 though. So if you're on a 1080 monitor, you're fine. If you're on a 1080 monitor, you're going to be able to run it totally maxed out, probably 60 FPS or close to it would be my guess. But this isn't bad. I mean, we're getting a generally 1440p experience out of a, 2014 to 11-year-old video card. I mean, it's not bad. You'd be able to get stuff like this out of even newer games, but unfortunately, this is kind of the end of the road for, ooh, let's see if I can blow up his engine. Ooh, yes! Okay, so this is kind of the end of the road for SLI support on AAA modern titles. I think this was the newest one I found. So anyway, I hope you guys found this interesting. And let's go take a look at the next title. Probably do... Well, we've done 3. Let's take a look at Crysis. We got to look at Crysis. Crysis is the granddaddy of them all. So let's go do some Crysis. This is Crysis 3. I was originally going to do Crysis 1, but Crysis 3 was so close to the release of this video card. I feel like this video card was made for this game. It's actually pushing it harder than I expected, too. I was kind of expecting to be able to just crank everything maxed out, but apparently that is not the case. So taking a look at settings... Currently, I have it running 1440p. I've got the anti-aliasing kind of at an upper mid-level, and I'm running it at the high setting out of low, medium, high, and very high. So it definitely looks really good. I just kind of was expecting to be able to max it out is all. But... I think I'm just used to newer video cards that don't have any issues with some of these comparatively older games. But it still looks really good. I mean, this is widely regarded as one of those games that just, it's always going to look good. Let's see if I can get them before they get me. Okay, what's going on here? Does not want to let me shoot. Oh, there we go. There we shoot. Ah. Run out of arrows. Or not. Usually what ends up happening is a bunch of guys, you don't realize what's going on, and then a bunch of them just kind of cluster on you. Kind of like that. So, considering it's running at 1440p, though, most people really were not gaming at 1440p back in 2013. Like, that really... Like, there were a few crazy people like me that had those fancy Dell 3007 WFP 30-inch monitors running at 2560, 1600, but it really wasn't common back then. Let's see if I can get this guy. Oh, no. He's running. But the other thing you can see is that this one fully and properly supports SLI. So you're watching it actually hit something like 95% GPU utilization, a 98, 99. I don't even know if it can actually hit 100, but it's as close to fully utilizing both of the GPUs as is physically possible. So yeah, that's part of why I wanted to show this game, is that this is Crysis, Crysis 2, Crysis 3. They are kind of to this generation what Cyberpunk was, or what Cyberpunk is to today's generation of games. Okay, so just a real quickie here. I think that kind of shows you everything, gives you a good idea of what kind of performance we're looking at on Crysis 3. And next we'll do Fortnite, just to see if, something of modern relevance will run. Okay, guys, so this is the last one we're going to do. This is to give you an idea of what a competitive is going to look like. I'm not going to pull it up because I'm trying to play the game and show you it running. But this is Fortnite running at 1440p. We're running at 1440p. Settings are turned all the way down. So we are running in competitive mode, which I typically test most systems competitive mode. That's pretty typical. And we're hitting where you want to be. We're hitting our 100 plus FPS. That's where you really want to be. As long as you're around 100, 120, you're pretty solid. It definitely is a game that's largely dependent on CPU. People always say, "Oh, Fortnite's 100% CPU bound." That's not entirely true. It's about 50-50. You want to run the game with a good CPU and a good GPU. But it's not bad though. Those were probably bots, but even if they were real players, you're going to be able to play competitively at this kind of frame rate. It's not bad. You do also, so this is 1440. So realistically, what you'd probably want to do in the real world is run it at 1080p. I probably wouldn't run this setup on competitive games at 1440. 1080 is really where you want to be for this kind of stuff. Ooh. Maybe I can find somebody here that's actually a real... Yeah, see that? These are all BS. But it does give you an idea that when a little bit of action starts showing up on screen, you're still going to be able to hold a decent frame rate that's going to be able to run the game. A little bit of dips here and there. This is one that I would actually probably advocate for overclocking the hell out of it. I bet it would help. I'm not really an overclocker. I've never really messed with it. It's kind of funny. I've only just recently gotten to the point where I can risk damaging parts by overclocking them, and the parts got cheap enough that I don't really care anyway. In the past, I was always too worried I would damage something that I couldn't really afford to replace, so I was always a little scared to overclock in the past. Maybe I'll make this system my first learn at overclock, because it's got a good high-end board. It's got a good CPU, so maybe I'll jack around with it on this one. See if we can find somebody here who's actually a real player to try to kill us, though. What do we got going on here? This is how it works with this game. You actually want someone to kill you, and they don't. And then somebody's going to just kind of drop out of the middle of nowhere in a second, and I'll be like, oh, I'm dead now. What do we got here? Oop. And I forgot to refill. I always do that. I always forget to reload. What the heck? I don't have the audio, so... Did he get me? Oh, did I... Gosh darn it, I forgot to refill that too. He got me. Well, I was close, but he got me. So that was probably a real player, but if I'd refilled all my guns, I probably would have got him, because I'm an idiot. Okay, so that's our last one. hope that gives you guys some idea of, you know, what you can do, what to expect out of this. And yeah, I hope you guys find this kind of an interesting look at an older GPU. So thanks for watching.